I am Miss Carina. I would usually be teaching in a classroom, but I can't get there right now, so I'm just doing art at home with you. So thanks for joining me. How are you feeling? I have been a little bit all over the place recently. Sometimes I feel really bored because I'm stuck at home. Sometimes I feel sad. Sometimes I feel like super fidgety. That's okay. One thing that I like to do when I'm having some feelings that I don't know what to do with is I look at art and I make art. So that's what we're going to do today. You're going to need some papers, lots of different kinds. You'll need some scissors, some glue, a ruler. If you don't have a ruler handy, that's okay. You can use like a magazine or a book, just something that's straight. And you will need a pencil and a pen. Okay, so gather those things. And while you're doing that, I'll tell you about the different kinds of papers you might look for or gather. So you might find just some plain paper. You might have some old projects, art projects that you're like, okay, I'm kind of done with that. I'm ready to let go of it. You can ask your parent or another adult if there are some magazines or things in the mail that have come in that you can cut up for this art project. You can even use the inside of an envelope. The inside of an envelope is a really cool thing to use because a lot of times it'll have some patterns on the inside. So I'm actually cutting a piece of envelope open. So here's my envelope, and then inside you can have these patterns. So I'm going to use the inside of this envelope for this art project. Now, before we start making art, what I like to do is look at art and get some inspiration. So we're going to look at this quilt that is made by an artist named Nellie Mae Abrams. Now, Nellie Mae Abrams is from a community of quilters called Gee's Bend in Alabama. Let's take a look at this quilt that she made. What do you notice? What do you notice about this quilt? Oh, I think I hear somebody saying shapes. Do you see rectangles? How about squares? Do you see some squares too? What else do you notice? You might think, oh, okay, some of the rectangles are dark, some are light. I want you to think about contrasting shapes. So you might think about doing something, a shape that has a straight edge, and then next to it having a rounded edge, like a circle. Or you might think, oh, square and triangle. You could think about contrasting colors, like bright colors and dark colors. So in the example that I showed you, the artist, Nellie Mae Abrams, uses some kind of darker blues next to some lighter blues or grays. You can also think about textures that are opposite, like smooth or solid, and then also patterned or printed. The other thing that I want you to think about when we're making art is pattern. A pattern is something that repeats. So maybe if we think about patterns in color, it could be blue, light blue, gray, blue, light blue, gray. Or it's long rectangle, medium rectangle, small rectangle, long, medium, small, or short. Okay, so just something that repeats a little bit predictably. And then symmetry is that idea we have of things that kind of line up, sort of like our hands. We're going to start by getting our main paper ready, our paper that we're going to glue our shapes onto. So I'm going to switch the camera angle so you could see what I'm doing. Basically, we're taking a rectangle paper and making it into a square. So first thing we're going to do is I want to make 2 pieces out of this one page. Okay, so I'm just going to first fold it this way. Okay, so I have a smaller rectangle. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut that. Cut that along the fold. And then I want to make this page into a square. So I could do that by using a ruler to make sure that all sides are the same. Or I could do a shortcut and I can take one corner of my paper, fold it across to the other long edge, making sure that my edges line up. And then I'm going to crease over here. Now I have this extra part and I'm going to cut along that line. And then if I unfold this paper, now I have a square. Now that we have that ready, let's take a look at the kinds of papers we have available. So notice that I'm trying to get some contrast just by the types of papers I use. So remember the artwork we looked at for Miss Nellie Abrams? That one she calls housetop, because she's imagining how if you have a house with a pointed roof, if you are flying overhead or if you have a drone, you have parts of the roof that are going to be wider and parts that are going to be, as you go in the middle, the shapes start getting smaller. There are lots of different patterns that the quilters from G's Bend use, so you can, maybe for another project you can use those. But I'm going to stick with this idea of having long rectangles here on the outside, and then they're going to get smaller as we go in. So I used all those principles of design is the fancy way to do it. I'm using pattern, I'm using contrast, and I'm using symmetry. Do you want to make another one? Here are some ideas if you do. These are some of the patterns that the G's Bend artists use. We did this one. Yeah, we did this one. This one's basically a bunch of triangles, alternating triangles. This one here, what does this one remind you of? Yeah, so some of my students think about an hourglass, which is a kind of timekeeper. Some of them also think about stairs or a pyramid. That one is symmetrical all the way around, so if I will move this way, still the same. Yeah, so I like this one. I decided to take inspiration for that one, and using the same papers as I did before, I did this. Now I have 2. Yay! All right, so I hope you had fun, and try this with different kinds of papers. Try them with making 2 at a time, or maybe 3 or 4. You could take one and fold it, glue it onto a larger piece of paper and use that as a card, the cover of a card, and write a letter to somebody that you miss or somebody you care about, or maybe somebody you appreciate. So I hope to see you again, either here on video or even better would be in the classroom. But whatever the situation, whatever you're feeling, I hope that you can remember that you can always make art anyway. Thanks. Bye.